for me, if I talk about overcoming an obstacle, it's either you do something which kind of helps you surmount it in some way. So like not really make that an obstacle because you found a way of actually ignoring it or kind of going over it. But the other way is sometimes you can't, and then you kind of go around it. And there's lots of instances where things are suboptimal, and that has nothing to do with disability or ability. All of us have kind of situations where we feel like, oh my God, this is something that I cannot do. And it's about focusing on what you can have control over. But also a really important thing for me in terms of overcoming and resilience is around failure. And people sometimes think failure is a bad thing. And yes, in some ways it is if you haven't tried enough. But if you've tried hard and if you're continuing to try and if you're doing everything right, and if you still don't get that result, then that's fine. That's so much that you can learn from it. And for me, it's about failure is a stepping stone towards success. So while there are certain obstacles which definitely bring me down, which definitely make me feel like, oh my God, not something else. But if you can take the learning from it, and to give you a really practical example, blind tennis is normally always played indoors because the weather elements can really be disruptive. So you're trying to hear the ball really carefully, but then if you have wind, it just makes the ball deviate, which is really hard to track. Or if it rains, it just makes the ball heavier and the court wet, and it's not the same. So that's kind of the reason why it's played indoors. Now, I personally like to train more than our regular sections because I want to be good at this sport and I absolutely love tennis. Indoor courts tend to be really expensive. So I play on outdoor courts. And yes, it's not optimal because I've often had to play in the rain and play in the wind. But guess what? It actually makes me a better player because I'm training in conditions which are much harder than what I normally face sometimes. And it helps me not just with my technique, but also react to obstacles or hardships in a slightly different way because I've been through some of that already. So my way of kind of overcoming that particular obstacle is through that. So hope that kind of makes sense. But it's also about embracing failure and not being too hard on yourself all the time.